Hi, listeners. Welcome back to Dreadful Dialogue. My name is Elise, and this week we have a returning guest.
Yes!
Say hi, Kristen.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited to be with you again.
Yeah. So again, Kristen is a fellow podcaster. She's going to tell us about her podcast at the end called Reality Rewind. But if you listen to the episode about Fright Night, we mentioned the movie Once Bitten, and while we were in the middle of literally recording, we're like, oh man, there's all these similarities. And then I think it was like the next day, right? I'm like, girl, this movie has a ton of similarities. We're covering it.
Yes. You text me and you were like, we have to do this. And I'm like, I am in. You got me.
Yeah. So awesome. So Once Bitten, 1985 movie. And I love this movie because it does have a lot of similarities to Fright Night. But I think that this is more of a comedic take. Would you agree?
Yes. It's more slapstick, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's total slapstick. I hadn't even thought about that. And that's such a good way to describe it because the main character is Jim Carrey. And of course, you guys know we're spoiling this movie. I never know why I do that, but all of us warn people when we're spoiling a movie. But we're spoiling Once Bitten from 1985. But yeah,
Yes.
Total slapstick. So this movie's about a boy. And I don't know where I put my synopsis, so I'm just going to wing it. I usually read one that I've gotten off of Google, but I don't know where my notes are for that. So there's a main character named Mark, and he is an 18-year-old, and him and his two friends are obsessed with losing their virginity, and he's pressuring his girlfriend Robin to put out for him, and he runs into a female vampire named Countess, and we find out that Countess needs to have 3 blood transfusions by Halloween from a virgin in order to keep her youth. And I guess her power, I don't know, because she's got like, what would you call them? Her like coven of vampires?
Yes. She has like a whole posse of vampires that she hides in her basement.
Yeah, and they're a really interesting posse, right? There's like a pilot, I think, from like World War I era. There's I think a Confederate one. There's like
that
a
one took me out. I was like shocked seeing that flag. I'm like, my heart stops. I'm like,
yeah. There's some definite like odd things, and there's a whole inappropriate scene in here that we'll eventually touch base on that did not age well. I don't think it was a good idea, but like anything, we're not here to excuse things. We're just gonna point out when we know things that those aren't right. Yeah. So, but yeah, and she's got like a hippie one, right? Because she talks about Haight-Ashbury. She's got a whole crew, female and male, but.
Yeah.
My favorite character, and I don't know about you, but my favorite character is Sebastian. Who's your favorite?
Freaking same, girl. Like, I knew you were going to say that too. I just knew. Yeah, Sebastian, what a legend. I love that man. He is something else. He has such a great personality. And like Cleveland Little, what an actor. What an actor. Yeah, so charismatic. His personality just shines through every scene he's in.
Yeah. It's worth watching alone just to listen to the dialogue between Countess, again, the main the female vampire, I don't know. And Sebastian, who is, I guess, the equivalent of like her familiar, right? He does her makeup, he drives her limo, he's her butler. I love him. So yeah. He's great. What again, you can look up his IMDb and see all the stuff that he's been in. He does a great job in this role.
Absolutely. Love him.
Yeah, so I think let's talk about first all the things that this movie brought to the table in terms of like vampire lore.
Okay. I'm down.
They definitely, I love that there was new vampire lore and that there was like the traditional vampire lore, right?
Yes.
It was a new concept to me that she had to get bite mark 3 times.
Never heard that before this movie.
I'd never heard anything like that. I'd never seen also the way that like I thought it was cute. Like maybe this is a vampire lore, how all their coffins are different. I don't know if you caught on to that.
Yeah. It was almost like they're decorated to suit their personalities or who they were before they were bitten.
Yeah, like from their era. Like even the way they dress, they still dress in the same clothing from the time when they were bitten and became a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's the she can glamour him essentially. She can
Hmm.
play mind games with him. So it was really cool that they did that, but they did
Yeah.
it all with such humor. Whereas, again, and we're gonna keep going back to Fright Night. Fright Night was just so much more traditional.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of new things to me that I don't recall anything brand new to the vampire lore.
Mm-mm. No, it was pretty spot on from like other movies from in the vampire genre or
Yeah.
vampire realm.
Realm, genre. Yeah,
Please help.
it's all good. It's all good, I knew what you meant.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, but I do love the beginning of this movie, and just like we talked about again with Fright Night, the opening sequence is really cool. The house, like it looks like it's like two houses connected.
Yes.
The architecture is really cool, and I don't know. I thought about this. If you've ever heard of the catalog Finger Hut, do you remember that
Oh
catalog?
my gosh, yes.
Like
Yes.
they were popular in like the 90s maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or even the late 80s. That mail catalog, and you could order like your furniture from it. And I remember thinking when I grew up, I was gonna have all the cool furniture in there. I don't even think it's around anymore. But like, I swear, Countess's house had everything from there.
Probably that. And she probably got a lot of her like curtains and throw blankets and pillows off the J.C. Penney's catalog. I remember that too.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
grandma always got one.
yeah. And but wasn't it cool though? Like thinking about again, the way they looked. Even though she was like, I think she said she was like 390 years or
Yeah,
400 years.
yeah.
She was dressed like the 80s right away, right when she first
Oh,
comes out of the coffin.
absolutely. Yeah, she looked good. Lauren Hutton, woo!
She's smoking.
She's
Yeah.
smoking hot. I'm like, I hope I look like her as I'm aging, please.
Yeah, I mean,
She's
even when she
gorgeous.
completely overages, she's still like, I'm like, you could still see her beauty in there.
Mm,
She still looked good even when she was an older woman.
absolutely.
Yeah. What were some of your? I wrote down some of my favorite scenes. I called them notable scenes. Did you have any scenes that either from that list or ones that you'd come up with that you really liked?
Yeah, I have a couple. I love when Mark is like, I don't want to be a vampire. I'm a day person. I'm like, well, stick to that conviction, sir.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And then Russ is something else. He's a character and a half. He's a horny teenager and he's filthy. And he would go around to all the ladies and be like, hi, I'm Russ and I'm a Sagittarius. I enjoy surfing, candlelit dinners, and like just goes on this whole spiel as if he's like really going to woo any woman at all.
Yeah.
And like
I'm a
after,
mature person.
yeah, I'm really mature. I'm the man that you want in your life. And as I'm watching him, I go back to thinking, what would 17-year-old Kristen do if that kid came up to me? And the consensus is I'd probably slap him and walk away.
Yeah. Totally. Well, and that's what I wonder because he uses that line in the laundromat scene. And the lady's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell you." Like she runs with it, and he's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
I still don't know. There's times when I watch the movie, and I'm like, was she really into it with him, or was she like flipping it on him? Like, "Oh
Right.
boy, you think you're mature? Like I'm gonna show you a mature woman," and it backfires on him.
Yeah, definitely. And then I had to laugh when Mark is transformed into the vampire and they painted on the widow's peak. And as a widow's peak having gal, I had to laugh. I'm like, how can you do that to us? Really?
Yeah.
What did you use? Max Factor mascara? Like,
I don't wear a lot of makeup, so I take it that's a dig.
yeah, that's a total like 80s, early 90s, like dig on mascara. Yes.
Yeah, they didn't have like good there was no good makeup in this one. Like the vampires, you could tell like they just threw on some like random white powder on them.
Yes.
Countess's makeup looked really good, but they weren't trying to make her look like a vampire. They were making her look
Right.
very seductress. But yeah, there was no kudos here like we did for Fright Night for like the makeup and the practical effects. And I think they were smart. They didn't even try to bring in a bunch of practical effects. In fact, that scene you're talking about with the Widow's Peak, they
Yes.
kind of made it cheesy on purpose. Like the bat, like he was clearly fake. Like this movie was
Right.
not trying to go for like great effects and great makeup. It was meant to be, I guess, like almost parodying it. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's like a combination of satirical parody of like every vampire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the special effects were 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10. Yeah, and it's what's good is they didn't really even try to do any, so they were able to get away with it.
Right.
And the little bit that they had, it just you could tell they're like, we don't have the budget, so we're just gonna do what we're gonna do.
Yeah. And it really
Yeah.
played into the humor of the movie too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some horror fans out there that are like, this isn't a horror movie. No, it's a complete. I know it's not like a horror movie. It's more of a horror comedy, very
Yeah.
loose on the horror, but it's totally entertaining. A kid could watch this, and I don't think a kid would not get scared. The only part they couldn't watch, I mean, there's some nudity, there's some talk that's inappropriate, but I mean, I think in terms of scary factor, like it's not going to scare anybody. You don't even have to be a
No.
horror fan. You could just watch this for the comedic elements alone and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. And then thinking of the makeup, I really like that when Countess is getting her makeup done, she looks like she's sitting at a mirror, but there's no mirror. And it's Sebastian doing her makeup. And that went over. I hadn't thought about that. And he's just like making her pretty. And I'm like, oh my God, that makes sense. She doesn't have a reflection.
Yes, right? I know what I remember like watching this. I was really, really young when I watched this. But like watching it now as a woman of a certain age, I had to laugh because he like puts his arm through like the vanity frame and
Yeah.
hoping for the best. I hope I got that blush on your cheeks.
Yeah, I
It's really
never
cute.
understood. I never caught that when I was little till I was older. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yes.
because she doesn't have reflection. Because this is definitely a movie. I watched this a lot growing up, and it's funny because I'll when it comes up with people that I know that are into scary movies, a lot of people haven't heard of it. But I
Yeah.
remember being on TV a lot, and maybe
Oh,
that's why I
yeah.
don't remember some of the like nudity and inappropriateness that was a few
Yes.
of those things that were happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also really like because I live in Southern California, and I mean I didn't do it as much when I was younger, and I don't even know if it's still popular. I'd have to ask people, but like they're cruising through Hollywood, and you see all the sights, and it was a bit ridiculous. Like I've seen odd things in Venice Beach, and I've seen odd things in LA and in Hollywood and even where I live. But I've never seen a lion walking on on a leash. And like they're having the whole photo shoot. I was like, what was the whole point of this scene other than like they
Right.
just play up like Hollywood's weird. Even when the bookstore guy's like making fun of like, oh yeah, a lady vampire, she'd totally live in Hollywood because she could blend in. Like it's like he doesn't come out and say it's like you're calling everybody weird in that area or what?
Yeah. He like fully embraced the oddities of Hollywood. But yeah, I feel like they really played that up to like make this super quirky and make it more of a comedy than a horror, as you were saying before.
Yeah. The bar was really cool that they went to too with the lip phones.
Yes. I remember when I watched that, I was like, I really want a lip phone. I really wanted one as a kid.
Yeah, I'm like, do people have house phones anymore? But I remember like wanting the clear phones and the different
Oh,
phones
yeah.
that people had. Yeah, it
Ditto.
made me think it was kind of like early internet dating almost. Like I mean, they could see the person across the room, but it was that whole like, I guess almost like apps now, right? I mean, how people swipe for
Oh,
apps.
yeah,
You just see the
yeah.
face and you swipe one way or the. I don't do this stuff.
Yeah,
I'm married.
same.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it made me think of like, oh, like is that the early version of like internet dating and now app dating? And
Yeah.
I didn't know if it gave you that vibes.
It definitely did. And it also kind of reminded me of like on some reality shows where they show people doing speed dating. I was like, is it like kind of that concept too? But yeah, I thought it was wild how they're just like, I want to call table 52. Hi, what's going on? And then Russ is like flirting. I'm like, did they get fake IDs? How did they get into the bar when they're not 21? They didn't check anything?
I guess not, because even then Mark has his whole story. He's like, I'm 8. What is it? Oh, I'm 21, but people say I look 18.
Right. It was
He's
so
even
funny.
like adding to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also like what 18-year-old is like owning their own ice cream truck? Please tell me.
Yeah, I don't know. I always wondered. I was like, for the longest, yeah. Why does he? I was like, maybe it's his parents. And for the longest, I couldn't understand. I'm like, what's with the ice cream truck? Is this just to like, again, make fun of the era? I mean, we still have an ice cream man that comes around our neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
but it's not
ditto.
like an all the time thing. Like growing up, the ice cream man came by every day. Now it's like once in a while.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it hit me. I think why they had him drive an ice cream truck was because that's how Countess's posse coven of vampires figured out that he was a virgin.
From the ice
Don't you
cream
think?
truck.
Yeah, they saw
Yeah.
because when you watch the Hollywood scene, they're like, oh, they're all looking like at the truck, and then they're like, like getting like, oh, we gotta go, like they send Countess there, and the limo pulls up, and she gets out to go to the bar, but I'm like, oh my god, dude, that's how you got caught because you had an ice cream truck. They knew,
Yeah.
well, you must be a virgin.
Well, yeah, or like, are there younger people around wanting to buy ice cream? I don't know. It could go either way, or both could be true.
Yeah, I don't know. It was an odd thing to have in the movie for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the whole movie, it's funny because I didn't think about it till after, like, I wrote up our, we always do like, little prep questions and notes or whatever. Like how this movie is so obsessed, I guess is the word.
Mm-hmm.
Or it shows how obsessed like these men, these young guys were with like having sex and losing their
Oh, yeah.
virginity. I
Yeah.
didn't realize how that was such a paramount to the storyline. Jamie, his friend
Mm-hmm.
Russ, Mark's obsessed with it. I mean, we saw it a little bit in Fright Night, but in this one, it's like the whole movie plays up to that. Countess is,
definitely.
like desperate to find a virgin.
Yeah, it really played into like the sexual aspect of it all. And as you said, like they touched on it a little bit on Fright Night, but Charlie wasn't that obsessed. Like these boys were, it was almost every conversation they had.
Mm-hmm.
Practically.
It makes me scared as a boy mom.
Dude, same. I have two. I'm like, oh no.
What are we gonna have to deal with?
What are we gonna do? At least we'll have each other.
Yeah, for
We
real.
can commiserate together.
Yeah, it makes it then like I knew how obsessed they were, but then the scene where and it's I think it's like right after the opening scene, right? First we see Sebastian. He wakes up Countess, and that's a fun scene. She's identifying the wine. She's like, oh, it's an Austrian peasant from the 1800s. It's vintage, but it's not a virgin. And then we get the scene where Mark and Robin are at like a, I don't know where they're
right?
at, like a makeout place. There's like a oil rig in the
that's true.
background.
At first I thought, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, everybody's fooling around. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, like, I don't know why I always assumed they were at some kind of like drive-in, but that doesn't make sense because there was no movie there. And I don't know why my brain cannot compute that they're like at some kind of like bluff or something, like where you park.
Yeah. I think I know why. And it's because, again, I caught it on when I did the rewatch to prepare for the podcast. It gives me, like, if you ever seen the movie Grease.
Yeah.
Right? There's a scene at the drive-in where people are making out and messing around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always thought it was a drive-in too. And then when I rewatched it for the pod, I'm like, they're just at like a random spot and everybody's fooling around. And it looks like that scene because Jim Carrey's character, Mark, he's wearing like a Letterman's jacket, just like Danny Zuko in Grease.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Zuko was trying to hook up with Sandy in Grease at a drive-in. So I think that's why. And I wonder if they did that on purpose. If they were paying a little homage to that or not.
That's very possible because that was a super popular movie. And I feel like a lot of movies from that time, like especially like romance movies, they played into that a lot. I have to say, with that scene, when she rejects him and he gets out of the ice cream truck and he's walking around like really upset and all the cars that are parked by them are bouncing, I'm like, oh no, poor Mark.
Yeah. Yeah. But they do a little callback to that later, right at the end with the coffin making the noise and stuff. It's like, oh, they knew what they were doing. They wrapped that back around. But yeah,
that was so
like,
funny.
Oh, he's all depressed.
I know, he's so sad. He's like,
because
I'm not getting laid. They are womp womp.
Yeah. But I love that and it makes me think of Robin was she's pretty good. Like she's pretty vigilant with her beliefs. I mean, I don't they wouldn't have hooked up if they didn't have to that soon anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, she did it to save him from Countess changing him.
Yeah. She was a pretty strong character, I think. She stuck to her guns for the most part. She was, a kind person, but she didn't take anybody's BS. I like that about Robin.
Yeah, I did too. Like the only thing that like I was kind of disappointed in was how forgiving she was of Mark. When she was like, "Wait, you went with this older woman and like you maybe
Yeah.
messed around with her and she bit your butt," which I never understood the biting the buttons thing off. Like, was that was that like her kinkers? I
I
don't
think
know.
so because they went back to that a lot, like the button
Yeah,
biting.
yeah, the button biting. That was the only thing. But then I guess because he didn't actually, he didn't think he actually hooked up, which he didn't. But he was like, he was kind of unclear if he did or didn't hook up with her. But
Right.
she was pretty forgiving of him of that. But she
Mhm.
still stuck to her guns of like she cared about him. She went and did research.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was an interesting character. A strong. I thought she was a pretty strong female. I thought she was even stronger than the female in Frank Knight.
Oh, then Amy? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so too. She was more sassy too, with
Hmm.
her delivery of speaking. And I have to say, in my 41 years of life, I've never bitten off a button before. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Never done.
Yeah.
No.
Same.
Mm-mm.
Same. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I have not done. I've not done that. I'm not sure.
I don't have
I
plans
don't
on
know.
doing so
Everybody's got
anytime
their.
soon.
Everybody's. You know what you?
I said I have
I
no
didn't.
plans on doing that anytime soon.
No, I spend too much money on my teeth, like
Right.
to get straight teeth, and
Right.
I have dental insurance, but I really don't want to have to crack a tooth or anything.
Nah.
So yeah,
Nah. Not in my future.
yeah. Thinking about let's see similarities. The dance scene was very
Yeah.
similar.
The dance
Yeah.
scene. Yep.
I thought it was really cool. The song, like it literally went with it, like hands off, and he's in between Robin and Countess doing his little dance, and you really get to
Yes.
see Jim Carrey, like early Jim Carrey. This is before I looked it up. This is even before he was on In Living Color.
Yes, I saw that too. I was shocked. This is
Yeah,
really his first movie ever, first acting role ever. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. I don't think I saw any movies or anything when I looked up. So it was a cool introduction. You really saw a lot of his facial humor. He did some of his impressions right when he was I don't remember. She said he was kind of acting like James Dean, and then who did he act like? He acted like I forgot. And he impersonates another person.
Yeah.
And when there's all kinds of moments where he's doing funny things with his face. And yeah, I mean, who knew when I was watching it? When I was a kid that he was gonna become what he became. And he's so
Yeah.
known for his physicality and his facial
Yes.
expressions
Yeah.
and his slapstick, like you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely a physical comedic actor for sure. And going back to movies that he's in, my kids love Sonic the Hedgehog, and he plays Dr. Robotnik in the Hedgehog movies, and he's still so slapstick and has the physical comedy still and very expressive.
Yeah,
And
that's a
I
good
love
word.
that about him as an actor.
Yeah. What other scenes? Are there any other scenes that were memorable to you?
When the boys are having lunch and Mark opens up about the Countess and potentially having a sexual encounter with her, and he's going on and on about it all. Russ has an obnoxious sweatshirt on that says freelance gynecologist.
I
I'm
don't
like,
remember that.
yes. So they're at the picnic tables outside having lunch. Russ has a sweatshirt that says freelance gynecologist, ironed on, the iron on
Like he did it himself.
letters. Yes.
Yeah.
And Robin is listening to them talk about this. And the whole time I'm like, you don't realize, you just walked past her. You didn't see her sitting.
Yeah. That's right. That's when she ear hustles, and then that's when she confronts him about like, oh, well, you went to Hollywood with, and
Yeah.
you may be hooked up with late, and then he's like, and Sebastian brought me orange.
Yes, the orange juice
But
is funny.
yeah, but like I didn't realize his shirt, and that's at school when that happens. How did they get away with
Yes.
that?
Like, sir, where is your mother? She let you go to school?
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my God, I have to pay attention. I did not see. I
Yeah.
didn't even catch that he's wearing that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
shocked. And then another scene that I love is like when Mark goes into the kitchen and his mom is making burgers or something, and he just like I want it raw, and he like takes the meat, raw meat. I'm like,
Yeah.
ew, that's nasty. And another thing that I love, and this is very common in the 80s, is like they make these parents look so elderly. Like they're supposed to be like 45, 50 the most, and they make them look like they're 82. Like,
Yeah, they looked more like, again, they looked like his grandparents almost.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe because they're using older actors to be the teenagers. That's
Yeah. It could
maybe
be.
that's why they're doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. They really played into the elderly aspect of his parents. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I thought that was humorous too.
Yeah, and it's cool, and it's funny because they do so many things to show us that he, even though she hasn't made him into a vampire, like she's taking the steps to make him into a vampire. And initially, right, he's like, when he's at the place that his two nerdy friends work at, the burger place.
The burger place.
They give him like a burnt burger, and he's like, oh, it's still mooing. And it's like, to me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, that thing is totally burnt. And they like set it on fire. And then now all of a sudden he's eating raw meat and sleeping in his he's sleeping in like a trunk at the foot of his bed.
Yes. He's
Hissing
wearing all
hissing
black.
at kids. Yeah, wearing all black. Like there were so many signs. That was why, in going to the scene that we said that we needed to make sure we mentioned, that's why I don't think the shower scene was necessary. It wasn't necessary to push the storyline, and then it was bad, the terminology that they're using.
Absolutely. It's very degrading, and yeah.
I'm not going to repeat it on the podcast.
No.
People can watch it. Yeah.
Very, very bigoted language.
Yeah.
And also, even when we are back at that club, somebody calls for Russ, and Russ goes over, and it's also very bigoted there in that scene too, and it's uncomfortable watching that today.
Yeah,
and
it went over my head as a child.
Yeah, so obviously this movie did not age as well as Fright Night at all.
Yeah,
but
it's interesting because then they make the joke about Sebastian, where she's even telling him, "Come out of the closet, Sebastian," and he's like, "I've been out of the closet," and he likes wearing her expensive scarves and doing her makeup and stuff. So there are positive aspects where they're not putting down the gay community, but then there's other aspects where they are
where they're making jokes about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. The shower scene, I don't think it was needed. We already had enough signs that he was becoming a vampire. Robin had already went to the bookstore, and the guy had already confirmed, like, this is what a female vampire does to turn him into a vampire. And if she really wanted to look, what makes this scene you didn't even need it, regardless of the negative language, was that she could have just asked him. I mean, he was so down to hook up with her. You think he wouldn't have taken his pants off and shown her if he had some bites? I don't get why they even needed to do that. I'd be very curious to know why that scene got written, because it wasn't necessary.
No, it wasn't, and it was extremely uncomfortable, and I don't know. It did not age well, and they should re-edit this movie and take it out completely. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah. Or put some sort of warning, but...
Oh, yeah, that too. Something.
Yeah, that's how I view it. If you're not going to... just at least put a little warning, put a little warning of some sort and and move on from it. Because you can't erase that people's behaviors, the things that people did, or the things that people did, you can't sugarcoat them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did find it funny, though, thinking of the bookstore scene. I'm thinking about that right now. How the guy was even making a joke. The bookstore owner was even making a joke about He was even like, really, like, if you shouldn't be worried about your boyfriend. Like, oh, well, I don't think she tells him it's her boyfriend, but he's like, oh, an 18-year-old should that's a virgin shouldn't be worried about a female vampire. He's got bigger problems. It's like, dang, he's dogging him out for being a
I
virgin
know.
too. Like, seriously, like, I don't know any normal adult that is like wants a young person, and I'm not judging either way whether
Right.
somebody's engaging in relations or not relations, but I'm like, I'm also not rooting for like anybody that's 18-year-old to be doing that. Not to say that they don't, but I'm not gonna be like, oh well, there's something wrong with you because you're not doing that.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
what?
You know, and it just goes to show you the times they're very like sexist like that and misogynistic and patriarchal.
Yeah,
Wait, I can't even talk. But anyway, you get what I'm saying.
you know what you mean?
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't necessary. They could have they could have left. They could have just had the guy talk about how he became one, and somebody could have asked him, or they could have just said, "Hey, Mark, go look and see if you got these marks. Go check in the mirror, take a
yeah.
little looky loo, and call it a day." It
Yeah,
wasn't
there was no
necessary
reason
for
why
all that.
Mark couldn't look for himself on his thigh and confirm yes or no.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
really, yeah, it was unnecessary.
Yeah. I thought it was funny, and again, and also I didn't catch it. The orange juice. I was like, it never hit me. I always thought it was just something. I always thought they were making fun of him for being like, oh, because he's just a little teen. Like they know he's actually like a young person, a
Right.
teenager. Well, he's 18, but you're kind of still a teenager at 18. But it's like, oh, they gave him orange juice, like when you give blood.
Yes, yes.
You know,
Yeah, it was
when
so
you get a
funny.
cookie and blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't catch that when I was younger. Again, preparing for the podcast, I saw that scene. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
that's genius. They gave him that because they were like, he might be a little weak. Let's give him some more. I mean, that's what I think, right? Is that
Oh, absolutely.
would that
I
make
caught
sense?
on to that. Yeah, I caught on to that too. It made me laugh. And like the way that Sebastian's just like, go. Just so nonchalantly, like, drink this.
Yeah, like like this is not his first rodeo. He's been helping her find virgins for a while. And I mean, her whole crew, that's like their whole job at the moment is they
Yeah.
gotta find her a virgin.
Yep, that's
And
their mission in the vampire life that they're leading.
yeah, I like that one of them's even like, well, I'm from 1864. He's like, it was in better I don't know his exact line. I don't have it written down. He says something like, oh, it's more in fashion to be a virgin in 1864.
Yeah, yeah. That was so funny.
Yeah. And then I also love that how much you can really see that like Sebastian cares about Countess, the way he like
Oh,
looks
yeah.
after her, and he eggs her on like when they get to the house when they first bring Mark home. He's all, oh, do you guys need anything? He's like, do you need drinks, food? And he's like, a bib.
A bib.
'Cause
Yeah,
he knows
that
what
made me
she's gonna
laugh
do.
so hard.
That, yeah, again, guys, Cleavon Little, the character Sebastian,
Oh,
bringing them lines throughout the whole
love
movie.
him so much. He's
Yeah.
so funny. And yeah, you can tell like he has a lot of like admiration and affection for the Countess and that he probably thinks of her as maybe a bestie. You
Mhm.
know? Yeah.
I think that's a good description. I think they are like besties, and that's what's different from in Fright Night. Like we don't even get to know Jerry's familiar very well. It's kind
Yeah.
of his character is almost like an afterthought. It almost feels like they didn't even need that character,
Yeah.
but I guess
For-
this is part of the vampire,
Yeah.
lore that they're bringing
It's to
in
keep
with it.
with the theme. Yeah, I feel like Sebastian is so much more of a bigger role than Billy ever was on Fright Night for sure.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I remember his name still.
Oh,
If I'm
the
being
same way.
honest.
I just listened to. We just had an episode drop about people under the stairs, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling. I listened to it, and I'm all, oh, I called the character by the wrong name. I called her by her name of a character she played in another movie, and I'm like,
Oh.
oh, I can't go back and re-record for one name, and I'm like, well,
Oopsie
hopefully they
poopsie.
do what I bet. Yeah, I'm like, she played Denise in summer school, but she was like, I think her name was Joy, and people
gosh.
under the stairs, and I'm like, oh, I've done that. I don't know how many times. So, guys, this is not
happens.
100% factual
No,
podcast.
this is not
I
a
mean,
fact-based episode either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a cinephile, but I'm not Google itself. I'm not
Right.
Wikipedia. I'm not IMDb. My brain does what it can do,
And it
and
does
sometimes you're gonna
amazing
slip up.
things. Nope,
Thank you.
you're amazing any and every moment. Um, Speaking of Fright Night, real quick,
Yeah,
I I looked up Chris Sarandon because I was like, what's he been up to? The gasp that I gasped when I saw he was 82 years old
really.
today. I was like, what? He's 82? How?
He
I
still goes
couldn't
to
believe it.
conventions.
Yes.
He still goes to horror conventions. I haven't seen him in person. I've seen pictures. I don't think he's been at any of the ones I've been to, but I've seen pictures of people posting. I mean, he does look older, but he doesn't look terrible either.
No, he looks
He looks
amazing.
good. Yeah.
But it just goes to show, like, I still think like 30 years ago was 1970s.
I know. I hate like now you listen. I listen
Oops.
to like the oldies quote unquote station that was like, sorry, mom and dad, was the oldie station that they listened to.
Mm-hmm,
That I was
mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, we gotta listen to this. And then now I'm like, oh man, they're playing stuff from my era.
Yeah,
They're
I
playing like
know.
Depeche Mode and Madonna and No Doubt. I'm like, No Doubt is not oldies. Like, oh
Yes.
my gosh,
I
it's
have to say,
crazy.
my son, if you ask him what kind of music he likes, he'll say the oldies and then list Nirvana, Alice in Chains, and Smashing Pumpkins.
How dare he?
The
All the music from,
audacity.
yeah. Oh my
I
gosh.
know, I know.
Yeah, it's crazy that we're now ladies of a certain age. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's what happens. Yeah.
I know, it's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of similarities, a lot of differences. I think that this one brings the comedy, the other one brings the dramatics.
Yeah.
I felt like I definitely rooted for. I did root for Mark a lot though, and I rooted for Robin a lot. Um,
Same.
which is hard sometimes in some of these movies. Sometimes you're just like whatever. You're just watching it to see somebody get hurt or see something funny.
Right.
But I did root for Countess in a weird way. I felt
Did
bad for
you?
her.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the ageist thing, maybe. Like I can't say that word, ageism. I
Mm-hmm.
felt
Mm-hmm.
bad for her for getting older, and it made me wonder, like, well, how did she end up the way that? How did she become a vampire? Like, was this her
Right.
choice, and she's just trying to like, live her life? And I mean, I don't blame her. If I was gonna be stuck living forever, I would want to be my best that I could be. Looks wise and physically. I would also
Yeah.
be trying to do what I could do to stay young. So I kind of felt bad for her.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did.
I mean, I didn't really think about it until you just brought it up. But I also didn't see her as like a sympathetic villain like I did with Jerry. And I think maybe because like we saw
Hmm.
more of Jerry's personality and like the Countess comes off extremely vain and like, I don't know. I just didn't really see that about her. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's like we don't know her backstory at all.
Mm-mm, we don't, other than she's been around for like 400 years.
Yeah.
That's all or they make a joke that she's 390, and then I think then Sebastian does. I don't know if he corrects her and says she's 400. Either way, that's a long time.
Right,
Um,
right.
yeah, I found myself. I'm kind of I think I'm the opposite of you. I think I rooted for
Mm-hmm.
her more than I rooted for Jerry.
Okay.
Um, I think that she had just like she was almost like desperate, but then she was
Yeah,
also
that's
kind of
true.
skeezy. She was kind of skeezer, like the part where she and I felt bad because we're both laughing, right? You already know what scene.
I already know what
Like,
you're gonna say, but tell our
yeah.
listeners.
Oh, when they're at like the mall, right? At like a store, and she's getting her second transfusion and bugs Mark, and then she's all annoyed by Robin and walks out of the dressing room, and she just like shoves this old lady, dude, like bam, like Heisman pose, push this chick. I mean, I'm sure there's
She
a better
took her
description.
out. She took her out. She was like,
And the lady, yeah, yeah. And the lady's just like, I'm like her little, and like, even
she
though
not.
I've seen
Yeah.
this movie, I don't know how many times I bust up every time. And then she has the audacity to do the same thing again.
I
At the
know.
at the dance, she just like pushes
She
some
just,
kid that's like in a nun's outfit. I'm like, dang, you had to push the nun.
I know. That was like her move though, the push. And like when the poor old lady fell, she like knocked over all these like clothing display cases. I'm like, that
Yeah, all
must
the
have really hurt
racks.
this
Yeah.
lady.
Yeah. I was like, dang, that's cold blooded. So now that okay, see, now that I'm talking this out
Can
loud, I'm
you
like, maybe she
see?
wasn't as okay. But you know, she was against going after youngsters though, because remember they're like, well, we found an 11-year-old, and she's like, that's
Yeah, that's
ridiculous.
true.
And she did at least go after.
Of
I don't know, but
age.
maybe she wouldn't have gone after him. Maybe it was just because convenient that he was a virgin, but he was 18 at least. We'll give
Yes.
her that.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, that's probably why I didn't have much sympathy for her. And like what was I going to say? And she kind of like spoke down to like her posse too. It's like you change them into vampires. They're there for you. You know, I just thought she could be more of a hype woman for them.
Yeah. Well, even Sebastian was kind of like, well, if you want your refuge and you want your protection, you guys got to find her a virgin. And he
Yeah.
kind of treated him like he was like their like the not like a dad. I don't know, like an older brother. Like, all right, you guys,
Right.
somebody's coming. Go to bed,
Right.
and wipe your feet. And
Mhm.
I don't know, like they were both kind of rude to them at times. And I wanted to know, like, well, why can't they just leave? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought like she kept him there for selfish reasons, perhaps to do the dirty work for her, and then they weren't successful in it, as she wanted them to be. So then she took matters into her own hands with Mark.
Yeah, it was weird. They didn't. I would have loved an explanation on why they stuck around, why she treated him so bad, and
Mm-hmm.
um also like I found, and again, maybe I'm just like, sometimes we cover the movies and I'm like, Alicia, you're looking way too deep into this. It's just meant to be a fun movie. But I'm like, well, what was with the two girls that were like willing to hook up with the two friends, with Jamie and
Oh,
Russ?
Jamie and
They
Russ?
were totally
Yeah.
down. They're like taking their dresses off, and I'm like, ooh, are they gonna pull their own countess? Like, do they need to do that? Like, that was the only thing I could figure out. I was like, why
Yeah,
why does
same.
she have to have a virgin to stay young? And does that affect them if they don't? Or
Right.
is it irrelevant? Like, it was odd.
Yeah, that was pretty odd. But I have to say, a real funny moment. I'm such a weirdo.
Go ahead.
When they're at the laundromat and Jamie gets put in the dryer, I'm like, why is this poor boy in the dryer? They
Oh, you think in there?
like, would he be burning? Like he would have burns all over him from the heat coming from the dryer. Like, this happened? How did it come to fruition? Please tell me more about the dryer. I'm curious.
Yeah, and he's like, she said no.
Yeah.
Or he said something silly. Yeah.
Yeah.
She said no. She doesn't like me.
I have to say though, he was a little bit more likable than Russ was, because he was more like timid and he had more of a softer personality, kind of. Where
Yeah.
Russ was just like extremely vulgar and nasty. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they were definitely two different. They were of two different. They were opposite sides of the coin when it came to, like, I think Jamie. I almost feel like Jamie wasn't as obsessed as
Right.
Mark and Russ were. He was just kind of like going with. Not that he wouldn't have. I think if like the opportunity arose, he would have hooked up with a girl. But
Yeah.
I don't think he was as he wasn't feeling the pressure as much as these other two teenage boys were.
Yeah, definitely. He was more passive, and you could tell like he had a kinder personality for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't mind him as much.
Yeah, he wasn't as annoying. Like, I still to this day, like, it's another line. Like, I can just think about the movie, and I can think about Russ's little spill that he would give ladies. The same thing. I'm like, what the heck? Like, if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, you are so weird. Like, does that? I'm like, does that really work? Like, would you say
No.
that to women?
Yeah, I'm going to start doing that when I make new friends. Be like, hi, I'm Kristen and I'm a Taurus. Nice to meet you. Like, nobody cares. Come on now. But I think that was like such an 1980s thing where people were really getting into astrology and like the phone psychics and stuff like that. So I think it's like playing into that type of community and the culture around it. So it's pretty goofy. But yeah, he's a
that's
loser.
true. Yeah, horoscopes. You're right. I hadn't even thought about the horoscopes and the phone.
Right.
Even the like walks on the beach. It makes me think
Yeah.
of like newspaper ads. Like, weren't there ads like that at one time?
Yes, like the
people could send
dating
out personal
section.
ads? Yeah, there you go.
Oh, you know what else it reminded me of?
What?
That show, Love Connection. Did you ever watch that when you were a kid?
Yes, I loved it. Oh my God, that was like
Chuck Woolery,
the early,
right?
yeah, where they couldn't see I mean, again, talk about a trail. But as somebody who does, you do reality, you cover reality stuff, and you cover some of these like love shows.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
gotta be like inspiration for some of the shows we have now.
Oh,
Shoot.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, so it was giving like that whole vibe. Even like the club too. It was reminding me of that. So it made me laugh. I was like, wow, I really loved that show when I was a kid, and I probably shouldn't have.
I was probably too young to understand what was going on.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. They used to say stuff like that on that show, like their sign, and if it wasn't a long walk on the beach, like, oh, I like going on these vacations, or like whatever. They had little spills like that. So yeah, you're right. That's probably where he got it from. Yeah, this movie, just like Fright Night, it's another 80s time capsule for sure.
Absolutely.
It's got the furniture, it's got the outfits, it's got the music. I wish they would have had a stronger soundtrack. They kind of played the song Once Bitten a little too much, but I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
I feel like that was the only song they played.
There was like that, Hands Off, and then the rest was
Hands
just
Off.
like do 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 do, just like actiony, like music, like wasn't necessarily there weren't lyrics to it. It was just music itself.
Do you feel like Once Bitten was more campy than Fright Night?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it was campy. It was almost like cheesy, and I have so much trouble defining this word, those two, cheesy and campy, when I like talk with people on the pod about it. But I don't know if it was more campy. It was more cheesy for sure.
Yeah,
cheesy's
the right word for this.
Okay.
You know, it's definitely more comedy based, but like the comedy and like the storyline is cheesy. You know, where with Fright Night it had more suspense. And it had more like little, not like it wasn't like super scary, but it had little like jump scares, you know?
Yeah, this one didn't have anything like that.
No, not at all. Like even when they were like untying Robin from the basement, it wasn't really that suspenseful to me.
No, or the fire. I was like, they're like holding like this stick with like a little bit of fire, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna keep all these vampires away from me, and if people are listening, they can't see me. I'm over here waving my hand like that's gonna stop. Like it was like the flames were like this minuscule flames. I was like, how are, like, these are vampires? Like, you guys can just step over these fools. And then they did make it funny because the guy like he just like blows it out. Like he blows out the fire real quick, and they're like, we'll get out of here. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't like the suspense wasn't good, and even the music in the background wasn't like
it wasn't that good.
Music.
Yeah. When they were doing the fire thing, I was like, why does this remind me of like a stick of incense? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, bruh? Yeah. It really feeds into the cheese. You're so right about that. That's like the perfect description of this movie, is just full on cheese.
Yeah. And they even make, and it's great because they even make fun of like pop culture of the time, like when oh my God, I'm forgetting his name, and we just been talking about Sebastian. When Sebastian's like, she's like, oh, I think we need to go, Countess, I think we need to go check on Mark again. And he's like, are you suggesting we invade suburbia? And he's all, bowling alleys, RVs, chicken mac nuggets.
Chicken mac nuggets.
Yeah,
that's the best.
Nuggets. Yeah,
that's the best.
Like, yeah, again,
he's a whole mood. He makes the mood. He makes the movie, if I'm being honest. He really does. From the beginning to the end, he makes the movie.
Yeah, and I still to this day, like every once in a while, like when I'm going to bed, I'll be like, "Good day, Sebastian." Like, and nobody even knows what I'm talking about. Like, I remember I was traveling in Europe, doing like a backpacking thing with some friends. And I was telling my friends, I kept telling them, "Good day, Sebastian. Good night, Sebastian." Like, girl, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh,
I freaking love it.
Movie. And it was funny because like we split off and they came home early. Shout out to my friend Brianna. I don't know if she's listening or not, but and she was like, "Oh my God, we had to rent that movie and watch it. We had to like rent it on Prime or something. And we watched it. They're like, no wonder you kept saying it. Sebastian's great."
Yes, He's a legend. I freaking love him so much. I think like if he wasn't in this movie, I don't know if it'd be as likable.
No.
You know, I don't know
Yeah.
if it would have like that almost cult classic feel to it.
Yeah. Because like Mark, I earn more respect for Mark because he is slightly trying to respect Robin, and like he is realizing like different things. Like I'm not conveying what I'm trying to say. I think his arc is good. Like just like Charlie, I
too.
think had a good arc in Fright Night.
Mm-hmm.
And I rooted for him. And at times, like I said, I rooted for Countess, but you even at the end, Sebastian gets the best lines.
Absolutely, he does.
He if you ever started to get bored with the movie and you found it cheesy, he made it a good cheese. Like his lines were hilarious. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, his even at the end when Countess turns into a she changes because she didn't get the blood of her virgin, and she's like, "Get me a plastic surgeon," and then he tells her, "Don't worry," because she's like, "I'm never gonna find another virgin. I'll never find one," and he's like, "Don't worry, Countess." He's like, "There's places like Kansas and Nebraska."
Kansas and Nebraska. That's right.
Sorry if anybody's from there, but you're getting made fun of in this movie once.
Just a little bit. And it's not us, we promise. We love Kansas and Nebraska. I've never been there, but sure, I love them.
I've never been to either of those either. I've been to a lot of
they're
places,
great.
but I haven't
They're
been to
great.
those. Yeah, yeah. But she's like, "I'll never," and he's like, "Don't worry." And again, his care, the way he's like holding her little hand, and he's like, "It's okay, Countess." But yeah, he's
so sweet.
They gave him the best. They gave him the opening scene when he's walking around and he's picking the flower for her, and he's got his little riding boots, and
yeah, he looked good though, right?
Yeah, and
his outfits were woo woo.
Yeah, he's wearing her. She's like, "Take off my $100 scarf." He's like, "You paid $49.99 for this."
I love when he reads her for filth, like at any opportunity, because she does deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, he's a good bestie. And you need somebody sometimes, "Hey, I need you to be real with me."
Yeah.
But also, he's there to support her. He takes her on her little escapades, whether she's pushing people
I know.
at a high school dance.
Imagine being at a high school dance and you see this like full-grown vampire woman show up. So that dance sequence was, I mean, very talented, I must say. I can't dance.
She's a good dancer, the girl Robin.
Yes. That's what I was about to say. She, like, even Jim Carrey, I was, like, impressed by that. Even though it was completely cheesy and, a part of the 80s for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was shocked to see him dance like that. I didn't know he had them moves.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know either. But it makes sense now when you see, I mean, he's done so much stuff with the Grinch and Ace Ventura, his silliness. It's like, oh yeah, you could see the star. You could see the star potential that he had.
Absolutely,
and his comedic potential was totally on display.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then there's one other scene, and I was like, why did they put this scene other than to make us laugh? The part with where Mark goes to the church, and he thinks he's confessing to a priest.
Cedric, who was asleep on the pew.
Yeah. And he's like telling him, "Oh, I think I did this and I might have done this." And he's like, "You're going to need to get yourself a shovel."
Yeah. That was one of my favorite parts. I will never forget that. Yeah, and he's like confessing in the confession room.
The room. Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called either. I'm not Catholic, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, it was really funny. That was a great scene. Loved it. It just plays into like Jim Carrey's amazing comedic timing too.
Yeah. Yeah. They nailed it on that one.
Honestly, like they should have done that scene a little bit longer and then taken out the shower scene. Just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're both 100% on that. You mean, again, regardless of the language, it wasn't even necessary. It was just, it didn't make any sense. And then you added in the other things that were going on, and it's like, this isn't necessary.
Right.
And it probably would have been able to help them. They didn't, I mean, again, kudos to the fact that this movie for having a shower scene, managed the nudity very well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we saw more of nudity in the painting of Countess than I think we saw that on display longer than we saw the
Yeah.
nudity in that shower scene. But they could have gotten the movie scene even more. I don't even know what it's rated now that we're
Oh, that.
talking about the nudity. I don't know
Yeah,
what the
I
phone is.
didn't.
I'm like, I need to look that up because
Let
I'm
me
very
see,
curious what it was
because
rated as.
yeah, I have my iPad here too because I
But yeah,
bought
this
it.
movie came out the same year. So while we're looking that up, it came out the same year as Fright Night. And I think this one came out just a little, not too, I think it was like 3 months later.
Yeah.
Or do I have them backward?
It is listed as PG-13.
Huh. Okay. I could, yeah, I guess it could be PG-13. You know, I mean,
Okay.
it's all, everybody has their own takes and views on what's appropriate or not appropriate for
Yeah,
your child or
absolutely.
children. But yeah, it didn't drive the story in any way, so I didn't understand it. Like the laundry scene, I don't think the laundromat scene didn't drive the story in any way other than
Mm-mm.
it was funny, but it was again, we'd already heard Russ like give this spill a million times.
Yeah.
Other than I don't know if the writer was maybe obsessed with showing, not the word obsessed, was really wanting to show like the societal pressures of
Yeah.
teens losing their virginity. Maybe that was why that was in there. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe because it was so focused on that being the Countess's mission to accomplish. Maybe that's why they were playing into it more. But I would have loved if like Mark just kept going to talk to the drunk guy at the church. Like if they like kept doing that as like scenes, that would have been
Yeah,
really
yeah.
funny. Where he's just like confessing all this like vampire stuff to the drunk man. I would have probably loved that a lot more than these filler scenes. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
for
what they
sure.
are for sure, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because they don't push the story along very
No.
much. Other than maybe they were trying to get a laugh, but I think the laughs would have been much funnier, like you said, from the and I say this with the quote unquote with the drunk the priest because he was
Yes.
not the priest. He was just the drunk guy that was nursing a hangover, or maybe was still drunk.
Yeah,
passed
yeah.
out on the pew.
He was going through it, that's for sure. Yeah, I would have loved that a lot more. And then, I just really have to say, can anybody really have sex in a coffin? Like, come on. That just
She
plays
even
into the
tells-
cheese.
Yeah, she's even like, but you didn't enjoy it.
I was like, slam. The Countess is bringing it.
Yeah, she's like, well, she's like, I'm gonna get those lines in too. I didn't get in, but at least I'm gonna run my mouth and talk some smack because
Yeah.
she knew she lost. She was like, yeah, you probably did, but yeah, that wasn't believable either. But I guess they had to. I think again, it was a wraparound to that scene in the makeout spot. So
Yeah, definitely.
possibly that's why they did it.
I think you're right, but it's just definitely not realistic. So it feeds into like how ridiculous this movie really is.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that this movie was ridiculous enough and cheesy enough that it was always on like regular TV. It wasn't like
Yeah.
it was never on cable. It was on just like, your local channel 5. I don't know, everybody's channel 5 is different. I'm
Right.
just picking a random channel where it's like you don't need to have, back then, we didn't have to have cable or anything, and
Right.
it would just be this cheesy movie to watch, and
Like on
I
TBS
definitely-
or something.
that kind of channel as well. Yeah,
Mhm.
TBS. But yeah, so I think people would enjoy it. Like I said, it's definitely got some similarities and differences that come to mind when watching Fright Night with it, but it's a different take. If you have a movie you just want to get a good laugh,
Yeah.
turn it on and you can crack up over it. And if you want that 1980s vibes.
Yeah. It's definitely like that mindless kind of watch. Like you don't really
Yeah.
have to be too into it to enjoy
Yeah.
it, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all of it. You have anything else you
Yeah.
wanted that is of important that we need to cover about this?
No, I think we touch all the bases on the ridiculousness, but campy,
Exactly.
fun movie.
Yeah, for sure. Ridiculousness. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Kristen, before we sign off, again, in case people didn't get to meet you when you're on Fright Night, tell us about your podcast that you are a
Yes.
host of.
Yeah, so I have a podcast. It's called the Reality Rewind Podcast. We go back in time to recap the best and worst of reality TV, like the absolute trashiest of trash. So right now we're covering Rock of Love Season 2, Love After Lockup Season 2. We're about to throw in Sister Wives starting March 1st, and we're launching our Patreon on Valentine's Day. And nothing says I love you more than tuning in to listen to Jersey Shore and Big Love. And
Cool.
some documentaries. We're doing Daughters of the Cult.
Okay.
Because it is about Christine Brown's family. So we thought that was a good, start to get into Sister Wives. So
Yeah,
that's what
to
we're
tie it into
doing.
all that. Yeah,
Yep.
nice. Well, we'll make sure we put your stuff in the show notes.
Yes, absolutely.
And if people want to find the Instagram for your podcast work, what is your handle for that?
Oh, yeah. It's Reality Rewind Pod. And then we're also on YouTube as well. We started posting videos on YouTube, which the Reality Rewind on YouTube. So yeah, you can come on over if you're into that. And also, you're going to be on my show, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm totally ready to. Again, if you're not into other shows, we may be losing some, but that's okay. I am going to be revisiting Bill and his three wives on their neighborhood and their homes. From the HBO show Big Love. Well, I think it's on Max now, but it was HBO in our time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be coming on for that occasionally and helping out. So yeah, it's really cool. I think it's great that even though we both do our main podcasting in different genres and different realms, but we still have
goes
great
together.
crossover.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. I really love it. As I said before, anytime, just let me know and I'm your gal.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much, Kristen. It's been so much fun. I love laughing with you, and I love talking about these movies with you. So we definitely look forward to having you on again in the future, and looking forward to recording with your podcast. And for everybody else out there, thank you guys for listening. If you haven't watched One Bitten, it's currently, I don't know, at the time of recording, it's on Tubi for free. So if you want to find it there, otherwise you can catch it on Prime. I think you can even buy it, I think, for like $4 on Prime.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, it's a fun staple if you want to just have it to watch it anytime. So get it on there. And just like Kristen just mentioned, we are also now on YouTube. I've started putting videos out there. So some of mine won't be on there because some people don't want to be on camera, but most of ours will be on YouTube at this point too as well. So that's another way to find us.
Awesome.
And yeah, and if you want to read anything else about other things besides some of the movies that we've covered, events and different things that we've gone to, you can check out our website, dreadfuldialogue.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Dreadful Dialogue Podcast. So again, thanks, Kristen, and everybody else. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.